Hey guys, this is Nick from Financially Aware, and in this video I want to talk about the new all-time high in gold above 2,000, silver at 26, where it could go, and why you should have an idea of where you're going to get out of these things if you're holding them. Now, I'm bullish on gold and silver myself, but trees don't grow to the sky, and so there will be a point where I want to get out of it. But right now, the way that gold went above the old high of 1920 and went through 2000 without really any pullback at all. It pulled back, what, to 1980 yesterday, like $20 or something like that. That's a very small pullback, and it didn't get up to 2000 with a big volatile move up. It just kind of steadily kept going up. That's a good sign that there's more to come for the move in gold. And as silver always tags along with gold and exceeds it later on at the end of the move, it's also a good sign for silver. You will start to know when the top is in for gold or in that range when you start seeing really big moves on gold every day, like $100 or $200 or something becomes kind of the norm every few days. Then you'll know that we're kind of close to a top. And when you see everybody talking about gold and silver all the time, that is also another clue. But to really cinch it, just check the gold-silver ratio. And when that gets too crazy, say under 50, 40, something like that, start to look at maybe scaling out at that time. And now it's going to be hard to do because everywhere you look and read, there's going to be stories, and mostly from gold bullion dealers or other people who are long, saying things like gold's going to 5,000 or 10,000 or $15,000 an ounce because the dollar's going to zero, any day now. And by you holding your gold and silver, you're going to be the new rich elite billionaires or whatever, and Warren Buffett and Jeff Bezos are going to be poor and their money is going to be absolutely worth zero, and you can buy up mansions and cars and companies for a few ounces of gold or silver. That's not going to happen, and so don't get stuck into that trap of believing that, because at extreme exuberance, people are not cautious, they're even more exuberant. So if gold goes to 3,000, they're going to be saying, why should I sell here? It's going to 10,000. This guy wrote an article, that guy wrote an article, blah, blah, blah. It usually doesn't work out that way. And so I'm going to give you some examples in history of what happens at extremes. And this is not even that far back history, talking about the global financial crisis and what people were saying about the dollar, the euro, oil, all that kind of stuff at the extremes. They weren't cautious, they were just over exuberant. And after I show you that, I'm going to tell you my own story of what I did during a financial crisis and what I thought about the dollar and gold and silver and what I did about it and whether I regret it today. So stick around for my own personal story after this.
Back around 2007, the euro was really strong against the dollar. It took about $1.50 to buy 1 euro, and that was almost the top of the market. But what really clinched it was things like this. Jay-Z, in his new music video, was now showing a suitcase full of 500 euro notes instead of the typical suitcase full of US $100 bills. So that's one sign. If you start to see Jay-Z or any rapper with videos of them with a suitcase full of silver bars or gold coins or something like that, you know it's the top for silver and gold. Another sign of the top in euros versus dollars is supermodel Gisele Bündchen said that she will no longer accept dollars, she only wants euros for her modeling gigs. And this story was all over the place. And so that just fed the story that the US dollar is going to zero, euro's just going to keep going up. And this move comes after warnings about the dollar from American billionaire Warren Buffett and banker Bill Gross. So the dollar going down is nothing new, and it gets to extremes. This is where the euro was around the time of the Jay-Z video and the Gisele Bundchen articles talking about the dollar going to zero. And look at it years later, it's all the way down here. So that was basically the top of the market. And back when these articles were written, the dollar index was at 87. Right now, we're up above that. We're at 93, where people are saying the dollar's going to zero. So look at some history for some context when you read these articles. And a few years later, there were even more stories about the dollar versus the Brazilian real, and that Brazil was a booming economy. It was part of the BRIC, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and it was going up forever and all of that. And the currency was really strong against the dollar, as you see here. It was like, what, 65? Now it's like 19. And so there were articles about all these Brazilians coming to Miami to buy condos because their currency was so strong and the dollar was so weak. And these guys that did, they made out really well because they were smart and they knew that it comes and goes in cycles. So their currency was strong. They went and bought real estate in a weaker currency at the time. And now if they still have these things, they made out like bandits. So try to practice selling when things are high and buying when things are low. And in 2008, when oil went to $140 a barrel, did all the analysts come out and say, hey, take some money off the table, this is getting frothy? No. Goldman Sachs top analyst came out and said that there may be a super spike to $200 a barrel for oil. And of course, oil topped not much sooner after this. So that Goldman call came out March 2008 when oil was around $111. It went up to about $140, and less than a year later it lost 70% down to like 33. So that's what happens when you buy the euphoria at the top and you believe all the articles that say that there's no end to how high something can go. If you're not selling out, you may regret it later.
So here's my personal story about gold and silver and the dollar going to zero and all of that kind of thing. I was into coins at an early age, but I didn't really start buying gold and stuff until probably around 2004, 2005. I had a friend in New York who had a pawn shop, and I would buy scrap gold off of him and gold coins when he would get them, and he would sell them to me for the spot price, so no markup really. And I kept buying because I was worried about the dollar and inflation, and I was reading all kinds of articles and stuff, and the housing bubble and everything. And when the bubble popped and the banks were basically insolvent, that they had to suspend the mark-to-market rules, the accounting rules for the banks, because if they stuck to them, they would be insolvent. So the government just like looked away and didn't look at all the bonds they were holding because they would be basically all bankrupt. But anyway, it was things like that and reading that kind of thing that got me worried about the dollar and everything. So I had taken a trip around 2010 to Australia and Singapore, and I planned on when I was there to open up bank and brokerage accounts there. And I did that, and I didn't put a lot of money in the Australian account, but I put a good chunk of money in the Singapore accounts and in Singapore dollars as kind of a diversification away from the US dollar and kind of like a bug out fund just in case stuff really got bad in the US, you know. So at the time, the US dollar was, $1 was like 1.3 Singapore dollars. Now it's like 1.37, so it's down 5% or something over the last 10 years. And I got almost no interest. And, 10 years, the stock market has gone from the S&P was at 666 at the bottom and is up to 3,000, so it's up 4 or 5 times. So there's an opportunity cost of that, putting that money there and having it sit there and letting it erode with basically no return for a number of years. So there is an opportunity cost there. I kind of regret it and I kind of don't, because you don't really know what's going to happen. So it makes you feel good to have kind of a little diversification outside of the US just in case. But as with the gold and silver, as that stuff was going up, I remember I was in Brazil when it reached the high in 1900, but I was in New York when silver was at $50, and it shot up in one day to $50 and shot back down very quickly. But I easily could have sold in the 40s or something along those lines, and I could have sold my gold probably around 1700, 1800 when I got back from Brazil. So I had the opportunity to sell even at least a portion of some of it, you know what I mean? And I didn't do it because I was reading the articles that gold's going to 5,000, silver's going to 200 and all that stuff. And I was thinking, yeah, let me wait some more. You know, things are bad and they're going to get worse and everything. And it didn't turn out that way. Now, of course, who knows what's going to happen, and this time it could be different and things are worse with the whole shutdown and more debt and all of that stuff. But it's never as bad as people think or say it is, and it's never as good as they say it is. It's usually somewhere in the middle. So I do regret not selling some or a portion or a good portion of my silver and gold back when I had the chance, because then I had a good 5, 6, 7 years of time that I could have bought it back a lot cheaper. So don't get caught up in the hysteria that if gold goes high, there's just going to be articles saying it's going higher and higher. There's not going to be articles saying now's a good time to start lightening up or anything like that, because people feed into that euphoria. So I hope you have a plan of when to sell your gold and silver, or to look at some ratios like the gold-silver ratio, the gold to Dow ratio, or the gold to S&P ratio, something like that, to kind of have a solid idea of when things are getting out of hand, and maybe you need to start taking some money off the table. So I hope you liked this video, and if you did, give me a thumbs up for the YouTube algorithm, and leave me a comment of where you think gold will top out, or where the gold-silver ratio will bottom out. As always, please subscribe to my channel if you haven't done so, and thanks for watching.